would be at in Auschwitz for you?
We are, you get up in the morning, and we were lucky we had water. We get water in that block 10. So we washed ourselves. It's always cold water, but it was water, and sometimes with a towel we had to share it with 2-3 people. I was always together with my sister-in-law.
What did they bring you for breakfast?
No, I think we get only once a day food, but we had bread. They bought us and we get those chisels, you know, we get soup in it, and they get a slice of bread. I don't know if it was twice a day or once a day. I think it was twice a day that they get a piece of bread that gave us to us. And we get a tea that in the big Camilla tea or something like. We get tea, and it was sweetened. And it was only one big piece, but you had to divide it yourself for the night, the day, you know. If people ate it, you had nothing in the night. So you get one big piece of bread, you get one plate of soup. Now Lillian, my sister-in-law, she was very bold. If the soup was I didn't tell you, but she was a mentally very strong woman. And she always tried to get for the second time soup. She went in a line, if everybody was gone, she crawled and sometimes she get hit. Sometimes they recognized her. Sometimes they saw her anyway, they still gave her a bit. So we ate, we were always together. We ate together, we drank together, we slept together. And I think it had a lot to do with staying alive.
So you would get up in the morning.
We get up in the morning. We get up. We washed ourselves. We put our clothes on. I think we eat a piece of bread. We had the tea, and then sometimes we didn't. We ate the bread already. We had nothing, so we were staying in Telepel. The Telepel took at me at least two and a half hours. I had to stay and stay. Well, in Block 10, we were not allowed to get out. That was like a prison in a prison. We see the men, it was all men, when I told you it was in Auschwitz, it was not in Birkenau. So we saw the men going outside. Sometimes we saw them staying a whole night in the cold outside without clothes.
What were they doing?
No, they just punished them for fun.
You saw the punishment?
Yeah, the punishment, they say them outside without clothes, or people laying on this. I don't believe it, how many dead people you see in a day. Everybody just drop dead or get hit. People get hit, people get hurt, people get hurt.
And what do they do when someone drops dead?
And they came with a little wagon, picked it up, and just throw on the wagon, take it away. Like when we were staying in the that doesn't mean anything in Auschwitz. If you are and have a year, 4 or 5 months in Auschwitz, that doesn't mean anything. You hope you die. I was always hoping I'd die fast. You know.
You lose your will to live? Or did you?
No, my sister-in-law wanted to live, but I really couldn't care less. I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be afraid to die. I was afraid to die. How? That they hurt me. That I was, you know, in pain or not in pain. But to die, just the dying was. I mean, they slept. You know, the people were so hungry. You see, the mine code. That the only thing that they always used to say in Block 10 people, there was no enough food. Because it's skinnier and skinnier, and there is not enough food.
So you spent what did you do during the hours where you were not roll calling?
Then after, there's also a whole different story. When I was a couple months in Auschwitz, and after 3 months there comes the big trucks and they take you away. The people who are skinny, people who are sick, people couldn't function, they take away. I was 3 times on a truck, and 3 times they took me off.
How did that
They
happen?
say, I'm not finished with Mrs. DeJong. We have to work. Other thing I have to tell you. I was born with a thyroid deficiency. I still get thyroid pills for the day from today, but when I was 6 years old or 7 years old, they find out I had a thyroid, and I get thyroid pills still. Every day now. I get every morning a thyroid pill. So I can live with little food. The more I eat, the fatter I get. I don't work it off. I don't burn it off. So with all the people walking around at Kelton, I looked pretty good. I never would have picked up that I was, that they would say, oh, she is like a Muslim, they called it, so skinny. Though they said they never would take me for it. Well, even when my sister and I weighed at the end of the war 64 pounds, I weighed 125.
Good storage system.
So when I came later, when I came out of the war and I went to by doctors, they used to say, look, what happened to that lady? She went to the same thing, the same food. I just, they never, I look good. So when that was one of the things that saved me. Then the other thing was that I told you Lillian was very good looking. She was blonde, and the SS always thought she was not Jewish. And they always used to say, you're not Jewish, you're not Jewish. And so, and SS saw her walking between, they took her out of the row and said, you're not Jewish. And she said, yes, I am. And she was always with me, and she was afraid that she would be separated. So she just said, that is my sister, she used to say, I don't want to go away. He said, that is, then he said, but you don't look alike. She said, that is my father, and she looks like my mother, or opposite, I don't know what we say. So she did not want to get a special treatment. Well, she was afraid. So we stayed always together. One time we were in a commando. Like we get out and we went with, had to pick something out of the grass and like little leaves and like medicines. We went with 2 SSers and 2 dogs, and had a big red stripe in the middle of my back, red paint. And they went to, they took us out it was about 6 people and 2 dogs and 2 SSers, and we went out of Auschwitz, and we were in a field, and sometimes one of the SSers let us pick apples, or they let us get some carrots. One time we sat in a big field, and one of the SSers asked me, he said, are you hungry? I thought to myself, what could I say to him? I said to him, if I say yes, it's no good, and if I say no, it's no good. I said, why do you ask? You know what food we get. So he said, I have some bread in my knapsack. You can take it out. I think it was, what the hell, I take it out. If I take it out, the dog's going to go after me, I said, if you want to give it, you have to do it yourself. I'm not going to get up, and the dog going to go after me. But then he said, oh no, the dog wouldn't do anything if I don't tell him. So indeed he had bread with him. He gave every time when that SSer went with us, he gave us a bread, sometimes a piece of wurst, sometimes a piece of cheese. But after 2 months, we didn't see him anymore. He just, or they squealed on him, or he was placed on otherwise. But when that guy was here, he gave us always food.
So there was some kindness.
That's what I want to say. There was not, and he told us he didn't know that he came in Auschwitz, when in hell it was.
You mentioned that your sister-in-law didn't look Jewish. Do you know that there were any other people besides Jews there? Did you see any Jehovah's Witnesses or? Yeah,
I know that was not in our block, but when we were in Ravensbrück, I know there was people who were homosexual. There was people who were Jehovah's Witness. They were also and they were in the same camp as we are. They went to the same thing.
When you were in the block, were any of the women in this experimental block molested sexually?
They don't molest it, they were sexually by the Germans.
As far as you know.
No, one time they wanted to make a poof, they called it. They wanted to make for the Germans. But then they came to the conclusions there were a lot of Russian women, they didn't need the Jewish woman. So they made how you say it, a bordel? A
bordello?
Yeah, for the Russian women, they were there, and the
Where
Germans
did they make this bordello?
Also in Block 10. I think not in Block 10, in Auschwitz.
In Auschwitz?
Yeah, not in our block. Mm-hmm. We were never...
and they took the Russian women for this?
Yeah, for the Jewish women.
Did you see any sexual activity between the inmates of the...
No, there were, like the block elders that we had, Margaret. She lived with a woman, and there are more. There are more people who paired up. I know friends of mine they live together. I never know how they could do it, but that's what they did. I don't think it's wrong, but they just live together. If they help each other, so why not?
It started at the camps, and then they just
I
continued.
think they started at the camps. Maybe they were in real life, but I don't know. I know my friends, but I didn't know what their preference was. I wasn't interested in it either. I don't care what they do.
And a lot of times the men inmates would have to come and do work, I heard, to clean up
Yeah,
shop.
they said it, but you see, there was three floors in Block 10, and I was in the third floor, and I really don't know what went downstairs. The people said it was there, but that I never. I know that Lillian had once a diphtheria, and they went downstairs in the infirmary. They call it that. They have a little place. She didn't get extra food. She was very sick, and typhus, my hair fell out. And I worked for. I was already a designer when I went in Auschwitz, and somebody, the SS'er, was looking for clothes. She wanted a blouse made, or I don't know. And somebody told her, Elizabeth, she's a very good sewer. She worked for years, and I worked for her. And she gave me, always when I finished, I went to her and I made her clothes, like I get needles and thread and scissor, and an iron. So I was working already a little bit, so I get some extra bread. You did everything for bread. For food, you did everything.
Did you see stealing among people?
No, stealing, in Block 10, I can honestly say people did not steal from each other. They knew what we did is also not nice, but if somebody was dead, and there was a lot of people dying all the time, we were looking if they had food. We didn't say we were sorry that she died, but we was looking if she had food. Maybe we did sorry, we felt sorry, but and we were talking to them when he nearly died, and he told us, tell her, if you come back, tell that and that. But we didn't, for sure we didn't come back. I myself personally was absolutely sure I never would go out of there.
Did you see any kind of religious observance being taken place?
Yeah, there was once with they did. There was some Jewish people who observed certain things, like with Pesach. They talked about. And
did you keep track of the calendar? Did anybody there keep track of the calendar?
Yeah, we knew that what times it was. We not exactly the calendar, but the people knew. There was also people came in with food downstairs, the big fats with soup. Those men were out of Block 10. They came from the kitchen. So they are more. We were very isolated. So they told us the war goes very well, and hang in there, and it soon is over, and try to keep alive, and they really.
That was your connection with the
connection,
outside world.
And it is now winter. We could see outside in winter or summer, and so that was things we tried to. So at that time it went in 1944. It was very bad already in the war. So then we tried to, they used to say, be brave, hang in, you're going to make it, So that was slowly, and then the end came in 1944, the end of 1944. There happened a lot of things inside, but, these and that little things. But then the most thing, we stayed alive, like to stay alive. Like what you said, I sewed a little bit, then when I get needles, I give other people needles. They cut off pieces from the dress. They made a belt. Everybody could sew a little bit. Especially Jewish people. They were mostly in the needle trade, and they did knitting. We made knitted sweaters for the inmates. If they gave us wool, we made sweaters for them. Now they gave us a piece of bread. Though I never saw one. Maybe downstairs in the infirmary and by the block elders stand, the other ones lived. If the men could come in, they had to bribe them. But we never saw it. We were in the third floor. We never know what went on downstairs. The only thing that we knew, was when mijn sister-in-law was sick, and I got the bread from when I was sewing. I was sewing day and night to give bread for her, to give her something to eat, a little bit. So then I know there was a whole different apartment downstairs. They had more food than we did. So most probably they could find people who get in and out, but they didn't give it to us.
No, but they traded something for it, probably.
Most probably did, but I was in the third floor. We were glad that we stayed alive.
So after Block 10?
So no, after Block 10 it was already in the end of 1944. The Russians flew over. First of all, they blew up the gas chamber. There were Russian people. Russians or Ukrainians.
The crematorium.
The inmates. They blow up the crematorium. They did it. They sabotaged them, and we had to go all out, and we have to see them hang.
The girls that did it.
We had to see it. I closed my eyes anyway, but.
What happened that day? Do you remember the chaos that day?
We heard an explosion, and people came all running up. They closed all the blocks, and everybody had to get out. And like in the blocks. But then the next day I heard they made where you hang out people, those how you call it?
Gallows.
That's right. It hung out, and we had to march all around it. And they did such a mock. It was like that they knew what they did. They sabotaged the thing, and they had to now they go die. And it was a prayer, and it's absolutely stupid. Then we had to pass along, but I closed my eyes. I didn't want to see it hanging. And they were even something in Russian like long live Russia, or long live the freedom, or And
what happened after that incident? Did anything change from?
No, it was the same. When somebody it was out to go out of Auschwitz, to fled Auschwitz. I don't know how they could do it, but it was all encircled with an electrical thread. And if you want to go, I saw people many times hanging in the threads, half burnt, dead. There was such a high voltage on it. So people that get punished, they stay between those two lines, and they were incinerated. So I always say to Lillian, I want to die, but how? I said, I'm not going to hang in the threads there. I'm afraid.
So what happened after that?
So then the end of the war came. The Russians put papers down and said that we hang in and it is soon over, and we hear them flying, and we heard from everybody it was nearly over. Russians were so close to Auschwitz. But the SS came, and they wanted us all out of Auschwitz. They did not want us to be free.
Do you have an idea what date that was?
Yeah. That was the end. It was the end of December. It was the 1st of January. Those 2 days, the 31st of December, the 1st of January, and it was bitterly cold in the Obersilesia. Now she's so cold, and I had no shoes, and I just was sick. I had diphtheria, and there's also a whole thing I have to tell you later. So you want to know what happened to me? Now I got diphtheria in. Now you see, I still forget Dr. Slavka. When I was in Block 10, there was a doctor. She was Gentile, and she was a prisoner, but she was not Jewish, and she was with those other doctors who did the experiments and things like this. Now every time she was there, and her name is Dr. Slavka, and never asked her something else. Too bad. I don't know where she is. She helped me all the time. One time I got a different blood group in my arm. So that I have something. They gave me a different blood group, and I was already going. And it was everything's spinning around me. And they wanted to see how long it took and how long it would take. And then she let the needle fall out of my arm. And as I was furious about her. And she did other things. When I had the needles, that was like, it looked like burning, I don't know what they put in it. And it was burning and bleeding, and then she came in the night and gave us water. and tried to wash us. And that was Dr. Sly, and she helped me many times. Or she kind of likened to us, I don't know, but she did. So later, when I was, so now we have to go back, when I was when we went out of Auschwitz, everybody had to go out of Auschwitz. And I called it always the Death March. When we came out, the Death March. You couldn't sit down, you couldn't go to the washroom. There was nothing there. And everybody who sit on the road to get shot. So you were practically walking between dead people.
Where were they marching you?
And they were marching me out of Auschwitz through the snow. We were 2 days marching, then we could sit down somewhere. It was snow. It was middle of the snow near.
Was it men, women? Who was that march?
I was between men, and later was women and men. I was in Block 10, and it was mostly
how many people
men.
would you say?
Oh, the whole Auschwitz, the hundreds.
Everybody was being marched out.
Everything. If you were staying behind, they shot you. It was all the time shooting. People didn't want to go, they were shot. There were some people who, I don't know what they did, they were hiding. I know somebody who was in Block 10 who was hidden, and an hour later they were free. But I don't know, maybe she was somewhere, I don't know, in a ditch, I don't know. We were, Lillian and me were not with it. We were on the walk. I didn't want to walk anymore. I wanted to sit down. And everybody was laying on the road, half shot. Oh, God. Dead and brains and, unbelievable. That is something you can't believe. So we were walking and and I wanted to sit down all the time. I was so tired. I had to go, I said I don't want to walk anymore. One time they let us sit down in a field. It was all ice, no food, no water. To eat ice. So we were sitting on the road, and somebody was beside me, was dead. I took the shoes. I had no shoes. My feet, all my toes, the nails fell off. And then my teeth were loose. So anyway, we were walking and walking. Then we came to a place, I think it's past Kleiwitz. I don't know where it was. I don't know. It was for days and days we were walking. So then we were we saw open train rails, train cars. So we had to go in. And there was no roof on it. It was middle in January.
So you don't know where this was? Okay.
I think it must be past Kleiwitz, but closer to Germany. The marches, I don't know. We were in those open trains. Lillian climbed out of the thing. They were shooting at her. They didn't get her, and she stole the bread from the SSers. She had such a nerve, that one. So she went under the locomotive on a train, and she got hot oil water, and it was warm. We had nothing to eat. We shared it with other people with bread. Also, when I came out of Auschwitz, when we had to go in the march, I had a coat. Before I went out, the Block Elters gave me a coat. But before I went out, and it was a warm coat. And Lillian had a blanket. And we had this. So together, we kept warm. Between the coat and the blanket, we tried to keep warm. So when we were in that open trains, people just froze to death. There was nothing there, no food, no heat, no washroom, nothing. And when somebody just froze it, we just threw them out of the train. But you lose your humanity. So we just threw out of the train, we get a little bit more place. Unbelievable. So then we came on in Auschwitz, in Ravensbrück. Ravensbrück was a very small concentration camp. It was mostly for Mischlings, they call it, for people who were half Jewish, half Gentile. It was a very small, they had no place for all those people who came from Auschwitz, from Kleiwitz, from Birkenau. They had no place to sleep for those people. They took them, but they had nothing to do for them. They didn't know what to do with them. So when we came in Ravensbrück, Lillian weighed only 64 pounds. And she was just a skeleton, her head, and her bones, it was just a breathing skeleton. So she couldn't walk anymore. I had to carry her. But I told you I was always stronger than her. And they picked me all the time to go somewhere. I had to work.
So when I came back,
I came back and I had to only pray that she was still there. Now one time I came back and she wasn't there. So they picked her up, the SS, and she was like a Muslim, so skinny. And they took her to the cash to be cast. So Dr. Slavka was there. Lily in her mind was still good. And she was crying, she wants to go to me, she wants to go to Beppie, she wants to go. So Dr. Slavka was looking for me. She came to the where I was laying out. So I said, you know what, Beppie, I have Elizabeth, I have Lillian here. She said, she cries. She doesn't make it, but you take her. I'd rather have she dies with you. So I took her with me, and carry her back to where I was sitting. And a day later or so, they took us all out of that place and took us in blocks. They closed us up. The block was half the size as it, 100 people. We couldn't lay down. No drink, no
This was in Ravensbrück?
That was in Ravensbrück. Neuest Klever was the same. It is like just in beside. It's not indifferent. Mm-hmm. I think the whole complex is Ravensbrück. But they said Neustadt Kleuver, but it was actually, I think, Ravensbrück. So we were in that place, and they closed us up, and you can imagine, all the people were sick. All the people had diarrhea. When you don't get food and no good water, and no, so everybody had doorschval, like diarrhea. And it was unbelievable. We are full with sores. We had lice climbing all over us. It was so sick.
Itchy and burning and...
Unbelievable. So then, the next day, the SS fled. They had all the uniforms outside, and then the people in that little room, they heard that the SS made a hole in the wall. They went around and they opened up the doors. So everybody, but in Auschwitz was in there. The first thing you look for food. Well, everybody was starving. They don't get food. So they were looking for the arsenals if there was food in, and everybody was climbing over each other. And I said, what's going on there? I can't come near it. So I find some sugar on the floor. And when I was picking up the sugar, and I had an old coat that I had to put the sugar in. And I wanted to go back to Lillian, and I heard somebody saying in Dutch. They said, are you Dutch people? I said, yes, I'm from Holland. He said, where are you coming from? I said, I'm born in Amsterdam. And he said to me, oh, do you look lousy? He said, but we have a cabin from the Germans, and we have a stove, and we have food, and we have water. I'm going to take you with other people. I take a bit, 6 or 8 people, and we're going to care for you. We are with 4 Dutch boys who want to help you. So I wanted to not go with them first to Lillian, and Lillian was, they came to Lillian, didn't want to pick her up, and she was so skeleton. So they get a wheelbarrow, and they put her in, and they take her with. And the same night we were laying there, and they took hot water and they washed us.
Who were these people?
The Dutch boys. They were in the work camp there. They were also picked up, but if you were able, they had to work for Germany. So those people were not SSers. They were just not in they called it a work camp. That was not like we, not in a concentration camp. So then the boys took us in, and the night they lay for our bed, and they said, we can't keep them with the little one, the little Lily, they're going to die for sure. And that the other one is also not far away, so we have to get him by a doctor. Now the Russians started to pester us also in the night. They came in with the guns, and one wanted to sleep with me, and the boy, they said they couldn't, and anyway, they said to us, it's much better when you go. So not better because they took us they find a little rowboat, I don't know how, and they took us over the Elbe. One side were the Russians, and the Elbe, and the other side of the Elbe were the Americans and the English people.
They rowed
us over and they had to go back, when there was more people where they had to look after. So there we were, on the end of the water. Lillian couldn't walk, and I had to find help. So I was looking around for soldiers, and then first I saw one, didn't understand me, walked. And then I remembered my number on my arm. So it was about in April, May. So I had put my arm up, and he said, here. I said, and then he was talking to the called right away people go over here. I have somebody from the concentration camp. Come here. And then he asked me where I was. I said I was in Auschwitz. And, before I knew it, they picked me up. And they took me to the kazerne. And they...
What's the kazerne?
Where the soldiers were. That is Dutch. The kazerne is a Dutch word. And how you call it? Where the soldiers
the station, the army station.
Where they are. So they wanted to give me coffee, they wanted to give me chocolate, but I had to make them understand that I had to go back for Lillian. And I speak very poorly English. Not that I speak it so good now, but then, said, I have to go back, and then slowly they started to understand me. And we went and we looked for her. I forgot where it was. It took an hour. And I find her, and she was crying, and so was I. And then the guys also didn't want to pick her up. Went back for a stretcher, and picked her up in a jeep, and took her to their place.